So it's my great pleasure to welcome you today to this Connected Women event this afternoon in Barcelona. We have a whole afternoon's agenda where we'll be together to, hopefully have a bit of fun, learn some new things, and maybe most importantly, meet some new people. And learn some new skills that we can deploy in our everyday lives.
And we hear a lot about the importance of diversity and how we need to have not only different genders, but people with different experience and different backgrounds to really make teams successful. So I'm going to first go to Susie, who talked about her background when she was at MIT, and she played ice hockey. I mean, she's not only a DevNet rock star, she's also an ice hockey player. Is that not cool? So Susie, can you maybe, with your experience when you played a team sport, because you mentioned that a couple of times, talk to us about the importance of working with teams and also working with diverse teams.
Yes. As I touched upon, playing on a team sport has been super important. And it helps to have the analogy so that you can actually relate them to what we do in our jobs. And just if you picture when you're playing a game and fielding a team, you need all different kinds of skills, right? And it's not just who's the fastest skater. You need a fast skater, but you need your bruiser, you need your people who can play defense, you need people who just communicate and put the team together. And so this has been really important, and plus you have positions, forwards, defense, goalies. Work is the same way, right? So when you're doing any kind of project, you need people with all different kinds of skills. And one of the things that, I've seen is that oftentimes you'll have a team that's, all men, naturally, all of one ethnicity because people are friends and they've hired each other, but having that diversity of thought is super important. And a lot of times you just go into the thing where you're like hiring people who look like yourself. So we need to break out of that. One thing that I've seen is oftentimes just the criteria start to favor, one set of things. On our team, I'm just really happy that in my staff I have half women, or more than half women, I think. And so in my direct staff on our team, we have many men as well. And that's been really important because the way that we work together, the way that we think, the way that we collaborate, the men and the women on the team are super important. And I'm confident, 100% confident that we're getting better results because we're a diverse team.
Thank you. And Jean, Susie talks about the importance of diversity, and one of the things that I was hoping that you could tell us about is how do these diverse teams affect business outcomes and how we show up and how we actually perform as a team, if maybe you could talk to us about that.
Yeah, I think at any level of any company, it's become pretty widely known, and in fact, research and data has backed it up, that diverse management teams, diverse teams in general, produce better results. And they do for a variety of reasons. One is, when you think about your customers or the people that are going to be on the receiving end of whatever it is you're going to be doing or delivering, there are going to be many types of people over there. And it's very, very important to have a perspective of your customer or a perspective of the world as you're trying to put things together and get the job done. And you're not going to have that unless you actually have a diverse team that thinks differently. You're also not going to challenge each other to make something better if you all think the same way. And so I've always made a point in any team that I've built, anything that I've been involved in, to make sure we drive that kind of very, very diverse makeup of the teams. In fact, one of the things that I'm trying to do right now, I'm on the board of a public company called Xylem, they're a leader in water solutions. And they only have one executive opening probably in the next 3 years. Well, you better believe we're going to be hiring either a woman or a Hispanic or some kind of diversity into that team, because right now the majority of that executive team is white male, and that's not going to be good for the company long term if they can't represent their own customers, their own markets, and have the diverse thinking that's really, really needed.
And Jean, you're also president of the IoT Talent Consortium. Can you tell us a little bit about how you, as president, you work with your team to make sure that there is a mix of different people?
Yeah, in fact, when we started, in fact, a few people in the room probably were around when we put the whole group together. It was actually part of the IoT World Forum. And so one of the things we wanted to make sure is when we built the people that were going to represent the board and represent really driving the future of this organization, we wanted to make sure we had people not just of, you know, diverse makeup and look and, you know, feel, but people that actually had completely different backgrounds from one another. So we said, okay, we're going to make sure we have X number of women, X number of men, people from global perspective. We want to have people from all kinds of disciplines. So we have people from engineering, we have CTOs, we have HR leads, we have business development people, we have GMs, right? We wanted to make sure we had a complete spectrum of different types of people. We have organizations that are from, you know, GE and Rockwell, while on the other hand, we have, you know, people from McDonald's. So, so we wanted to make sure that we had a really, really diverse group of people that could help us think about how we could serve our customers in total, not one segment of them.
That's great. So we just had a fantastic Connected Women event here today to kick off Cisco Live, and I can't wait to see all of you at our next big event, which is Women of Impact Day, taking place on March 7th. That's a Wednesday, and I hope all of you join us. Let's shift a little bit to what we're seeing in the market and the era of digital disruption and the fact that things are changing so quickly. And you know, one of the questions that I get a lot because I work with the early in career is what type of skills do I need to be learning now to make sure that I can compete and I can be, you know, I can be ready for everything that's changing. So Susie, I'm going to go to you first. What advice would you give to the audience in terms of skills that you think that they need to get ahead during these market transitions?
Yes. So I would say that, well, certainly there's a whole set of software skills, you know, that are super important. And again, it doesn't mean that everybody needs to be a coder, but you need to speak the language, right? You need to understand. You can't be afraid of the word API. You have to just use it, right? An API is how software systems interact with each other. Just learn the language, you know, become comfortable with that, because that's an important part of how you're going to do business. The other thing is that it's really important to just keep learning. Like, I can't even say that, you know, what is the next skill set going to be for the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years? It's going to keep changing. My advisor, you know, had a story where he went and visited somebody, and there was this person retiring from Bell Labs who knew how to solder, you know, when you do a soldering iron to make circuit boards. And his whole career was on doing research for solder. And he said, that's not going to happen again in the future, where you have one job for your entire career. So just learning how to learn and accepting that there's new areas and you need to just embrace them and learn quickly is really important there.
It's been an amazing event this afternoon. I would say some of the key examples that some of the speakers shared, the panel around practical things that both the men and the women attending today's Connected Women event could actually engage with. So some fantastic reference points that, you know, I think have given people real examples of things to take away and to bring into play in their day-to-day lives, roles and jobs. So I think that's very powerful for people.
That's great. And Jean, you've been an early pioneer in terms of developing talent. You're leading the learning at Cisco. Can you maybe give some further advice to the audience on how they can prepare the future workforce for the leaders in the audience, but also themselves?
Sure. You know, there's the makeup of the workforce of the future is going to be even more diverse than it is today. That's the first thing. And I don't mean diverse in terms of, you know, makeup of people, but I mean the skill set itself. And, you know, I think there are a number of things that we touched on already during the conference, which is, you know, IT of the future looks quite different than IT of the past. IT of the past was siloed. IT of the past was, you know, extremely specialized and focused, and not that we're not going to have that. We certainly are. We're going to have specialized skills and a lot more. And in fact, you know, if I look at the number of job types that are changing, when we look, you know, back 5 years to now and then going forward, there's probably about 30 different new roles that have popped up just in IT alone that are completely different than anything we've seen from the past. So we have brand new jobs showing up. We have the change in the current jobs that we're all in today that are moving forward at such a rapid pace you wouldn't believe. You know, we used to think that, you know, if you knew your job, you'd be okay for maybe 3 to 4 years. Well, now it's about a 6-month horizon. That's how much change has happened in the way that we need to rethink every day the work that we do and how we do the work. And so there's a massive amount of change management that people have to take on. You have to embrace it to a point of infinity. So, you know, when we talk about before, I always talk when I go out and speak on this topic, I always say that it's so important. The most important skill you must have, no matter where you sit today, is the ability to learn and change. If you don't have that skill, it's going to be incredibly difficult to move forward in the future and to keep yourself successful, because regardless of how successful you are today, the definition of that success is going to change, and it's going to change substantially. So very important that you do that. In fact, there's a really great book that Carol Dweck wrote. She's somebody that I used as my mentor when I was writing my book. And she's from Stanford University, well-known researcher around the world. And what she talks about is this idea of learners versus fixed mindset. And you know, what she drills on is the fact that you have to make sure that just because you're successful in doing what you're doing today doesn't mean that if you keep repeating the same things that you're doing to be successful, it's going to be successful in the future. You must learn. You must not be afraid of failure as you learn. You must think of different ways to put yourself out there and try new things every single day. Because if you're not doing that, then you're not growing. And if you're not growing, then you're actually moving backwards. So that's, you know, that's a big, big part, I think, of how we need to think about it. And then, of course, you know, huge amount of new types of jobs. Cybersecurity is huge. It's not just programming, right? Cybersecurity is, you know, millions of jobs are unfilled today. So if somebody's in a networking career, you want to really differentiate yourself and go into the hottest field there is right now, it's cyber. Yeah. Second one is data and analytics. Doesn't matter what your job is. If you don't know how to do data analysis and use data properly, that's another one that you have to add as a major core skill set to, you know, who you are, what you do, and then of course being a learner. So I think if you could fall into any of those areas, you'd be okay.
So I think that's great advice. So not only, Susie, you're saying learn something new all the time. Jean, you're actually saying it's a lot about your attitude as well and how resilient you are. I think that's so important that you're okay with failing fast, learning, and keeping up.
Hi, everyone. I'm here with Gracia. Gracia, I know you're an expert in personal growth and career advancement. Tell our audience, you know, how they can do that, how they can advance their careers and grow personally.
Well, in my opinion and under my experience, my advice would be never give up. Go ahead with your dream, set your goals, and never give up. Even when more difficult it seems to be. And I would advise to be very, very confident and never act as a man, never imitate men. And well, I would say get as much knowledge as you can, but knowledge is not everything. Follow your intuition.
And how do you maintain that confidence? Just draw it personally, or remember things that you should be confident about, be grateful?
Well, it's a work. It's a personal work to improve confidence, but there are tools to do.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Gracia.
Gracia, you know, at Indra and just in your career, the last 20 plus years that you've had, you know, keeping in mind what we just talked about, one of the things that I see in the industry now is that retaining talent as well, that's a very big thing, especially female talent. You know, there aren't a lot of us out there, so it's very important to do that. What at your company, how do you encourage and what do you have in place to retain talent and also make sure that you recruit the best people to be part of your organization?
Mm-hmm. Well, we try to teach the recruiters on diversity, so they have this topic very, very focused. They try to get the best of the female talent. Okay, And we have policies since it's more 10 years ago. We have gender diversity in our politics, even before government. And we are working very, very hard on flexible work because we consider that it's a great, is the key to make women grow in their careers and they can balance their professional and personal life. And I would like to see policies in equal salary for equal work, but we are working on it.
Yes. Well, we have, I think for those of you who work at Cisco, we're very lucky that we have fantastic collaboration tools that allow you to be flexible in your work. I talk all the time about the difference when I was a mom 20 years ago to now. It's just so much more easier to be able to work at home, but I agree.
Hi everyone, we're here with Anniken. Anniken, I hear you gave a fantastic keynote today, Chill, Connect, Create. Tell us a little bit about what the message was for that.
Well, it's about a book that I've written, and it's inspired by the need for having a bit more, how should I say, inspiring stories for women.
I love it.
Especially in the workplace.
Yes.
Definitely men can read and listen to it as well. And it is the need that we are so busy in our work lives that we tend to forget to relax and breathe.
Have a cup of tea or something?
Yeah, and chill a bit and realize that, it's not the end of the world if you make a mistake.
Right.
So the art of chilling is kind of one big message that I was talking on from stage today, but also from my book. And the importance to connect with who we are and stop going around and living our lives and our careers based on other people's expectations and what we think is a good thing to do, but actually ask ourselves questions like, what is important to me? Mm-hmm. What do I believe in? What do I want? How many people actually ask themselves? Because, you live your life based on what other people want sometimes. You might not be aware of it,
right.
But that's actually what you end up doing. And what makes you happy?
Yeah.
Like, how often do you ask those questions, right? So that is the need for connecting. And the last is the importance of going out and creating the life you want to have for yourself and taking risks and being brave, because I think there's so much potential
Yes.
in, again, particularly women in the workplace, just because, they tend to wait till they're a bit more perfect, a bit more skilled or whatever. And I said, take risks, just go out there and just do it.
You read the job description and it says you need 3 years as this and you only have 2.5, and so women won't apply for some reason. Yes.
Exactly. And I also told in my speech today, so I told about the fact that I used to recruit people in IT. And I could see this huge difference between recruiting women and men, because men typically, they said they had,
No.
well, they exaggerated was
Right.
like the word I would use. And they had these skills and these competences, and I always had to take off like 10% of what they said if they were engineers, and 50% if they were sales. And with the women, I sometimes had to say like, you know what, you're here, you're supposed to actually convince me to hire you, not to give me all the reasons why I shouldn't.
That's a great point. Sell yourself.
Yes. So, and I think it has to do with confidence. But you know what? You might not have confidence if you don't really know what you want.
Right.
So that's why, I think this key message, like chill, so you can kind of have time to think and connect with who you really are, and then go out and just get it. Just do it.
With everything you said, let me just go now to the importance of empowerment. And Michelle, you talked about it earlier. We need the men actually to make sure that we're nice to each other. And one of the things that probably my biggest pet peeve is I think we need to be nicer to each other. And what I thought was very interesting in the reading that I did about you, Grazia, is that there was a statement that you made that I wanted to hear more about it. The equality of opportunity between men and women is a key indicator of long-term social stability and economic prosperity. It's something I think you're passionate about. Can you maybe talk about that?
I think that's how it is. Nowadays it is obvious that gender equality is a key indicator of modern society. I've always been very impressed for this kind of programs that you have mentioned before, when giving funds to women in poor communities, how it increased the benefits of the programs, because they know how to take advantage of this situation to prosper the business, and so I think it's obvious. It's a key indicator, a core indicator, and United Nations has established as well.
Totally agree. Jean, how can we all play a role in advancing opportunities for women? And can you share how you've, in your career, empowered the women that you have, and give us any advice on how to do that?
Yeah, so I think, one is just for those of you who feel you've got a story to tell and lessons to learn, go out and share those and spend time with women and really with everyone. Sharing your experience, what's worked, what hasn't worked, how you have created success, because that's the kind of stuff that people need. People need to understand the path. When I was growing up, there weren't any women to look forward to in tech to talk to about any of this. And so all of my mentors, all of my, look-to people were men. Every single last one of them. And when I came into Cisco, I was one of 3 women executives, that was 22 years ago. So, there weren't many women to look to. But, I think that it's really, really critical to share your story, spend time out there, with people to help them. Also, one of the things many of us have done in the US, we've actually signed up to sponsor women. And so we've taken the pledge to mentor and make sure 5 women get to where they want to get to over the coming years, and just get them set up, work with them, help to coach them, and then see what you can do to get them to whatever their destination is, whatever success looks like for them. I think that's really important. And obviously, if you're leaders and you are hiring and you have the ability to think about programs that would help diversity. There's so many different organizations out there that help both women and others do things. So for example, one of the things that we did this year is we put a $10 million scholarship together, and we went out as an organization to, around the world, try to find underrepresented people in tech and bring them forward into the hottest career there's going to be, which is cybersecurity, to get them moving forward, to give them free education, certifications, and mentoring throughout the couple of years. And so the goal is to get 10,000 people that are unrepresented today in the industry into the industry. So whatever you can do, that's a big initiative, but you all probably have ways that you can contribute in your own way. Anything matters. Anything matters of any size. We've also, in the Learning at Cisco team, have done a lot to try to bring people forward and teach people the face of IT. Back to the slides, I think several people put up, you put up them, and I know a couple of people talked about it, is if we think that IT people all look like geeks, guess what? We're not going to interest women. We're not going to interest the majority of people out there, never mind women. And so, showing a different face, what we've done is taken some really interesting people around the globe and profiled them on Cisco Learning Network. And since we get about 80 hits on that website on an annual basis, that's a great way to expose people to what IT really does look like. It doesn't look like what they think. Right? Or at least in pockets, we can find people who look different, right, that they can identify with.
That's great. No, I can relate. I'm one of those imposters that's definitely not an engineer. So I gave birth to an engineer, though, by the way.
Hi, everyone. I'm here with Jean Beliveau-Dunn, best-selling author. Jean, what was the name of your book?
I'm the boss of me.
All right, that's perfect. So tell us a little bit about what it took to become a best-selling author and what really inspired you to write this book.
Well, I would say, first of all, the inspiration came from being on the speaking circuit for a long time and talking to people about their careers and my career and, how much I've enjoyed what I've done over the last decade or so. And, when I go out and talk to people about and ask them questions, how do you feel about what you're doing? Do you feel you're doing something with meaning and purpose? Are you happy at what you're doing? And a lot of times I don't get a yes. I get a lot of no's.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And so for me, and a lot of questions I get is, how do I get to do what I want to do? Right? What, if I'm not happy with what I'm doing, how do I get there?
Because
How do I
everyone
get there?
else seemed to break through,
exactly,
but I can't.
exactly. So I wrote the book about that. I wrote the book about, how to be self-empowered, how to really own your own career journey and make it happen.
That's my claim to fame. Susie, one of the things on your slides, you talked about use your success to help others. And, we know that, you started DevNet. It's not just for women, obviously, but I know that you'd love to see more women on there. Can you maybe talk about your point of view on how you think that we could be using our success to help others? What does that mean to you when you say that?
Yeah, I think it's really important is just all of you, everybody here has achieved a lot because you're here. You know your journey, you know what you've gone through, but traveling to conferences, representing your companies, understanding and interacting with others, everybody who's here and watching this has been successful in what you've done, and you've overcome many challenges in that. So just realize that everybody has challenges. I have challenges. You all have, we all have them. So it's really about, using your platform as a place to help others. So you've achieved success. So as you're out there, the question is, what opportunities are there? If there's a job opening, just reach out. Let other women know about it. Let them apply. If somebody asks you and say, hey, there's this person who could be a good fit for your job. Maybe they are, maybe they're not, but talk to them. In that conversation, you might just help them and inspire them and have a nice conversation. So there's so many things that you might think are very easy for you and just things that you have, that you've worked for, but share those with others because not everybody has those opportunities.
Wow, that's great. Great words of wisdom.
Moving forward in this ever-changing IT market, what do you suggest to future learners, I guess?
So I would say that the key is to just get out there and do it. Don't just sit there and think about, should I get started? I know it's important, someday I should. Is just get out there. What happens is there's so many materials on the internet to learn about coding. There's so much out there, that kids can just build things and code and get. So this is actually all available to you. And what we have within DevNet is to help you learn about it within the context of what you do. So it's one thing to learn about coding, it's another thing to learn about coding in the context of automating your network. And so if you go to developer.cisco.com, we have learning labs, we have video short courses, we have all sorts of things to help people get started. And kind of the key is get started today and just do it.